welcome back to Zaniheza YouTube channel. My name is Charles Kishi. I am your host and the founder of Zaniheza. We are here on a Saturday, not Sunday, to raise awareness, educate, inform about our continent, starting with Rwanda, where I am from. If you just tune in, let me know where you are watching us from. If you'll be watching us later, watch until the end. Um, we are Zanieza. Thank you to the new members of our community. We are growing. Please keep on subscribing, keep on joining our family. We appreciate. We are now in June as a startup. It's such a journey, and our brand allows us to remain connected to you while bringing you amazing and beautiful content that inform, educate, and raise awareness. Watch until the end, share, comment, hit or smash the like button. It's such a pleasure to see that. Support, 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 support as we are in a competition with Orbit, ORBIIIT. There is a link. We would like you to go and vote for us. Vote for Zaniheza. We are in a competition and we are so far doing well. We are in round 3. We would like to make it to the finals. We cannot do it without you. Everywhere where you are, please go and vote. If you need help, if you have questions, just write to us. Today's guest, as you saw the poster, his name is Karlo, and he has this beautiful dream goal of growing the luxury market, not just in Rwanda as well as in Africa. It's something that he has started doing, and I invited him to come and talk to us so we can hear more about those plans. He should be with us. I see him calling shortly, and we can have a chat on that. As you join, let me know where you are from. Let me know how is your day. Just, say hello. Okay, our guest is trying to join. That's when you go live. You never know. It's always interesting. There's so much to share, so much to see. Say hello if you have not voted. We from Paris, please vote. Please do that. What we are trying to do here is to ensure that our guest gets online as soon as we can. And that's what I'm trying to do, so that our guest can join. Someone from Paris, that's good. I'm just talking to our guest. Wow, I see you. Until our guest can come in, please just, I'm going to entertain you. If you have any question about Zaniheza, let me know. That's where I am here. Kanyoni, please help our guest finding the way here. The community is growing, which is quite amazing. We are over 4,000 mark right now, and it's just amazing. I have nothing but appreciation. Zaniheza, we appreciate you. We can't wait for the world to travel again so that we can show you the world. today's topic, as much as it's touching on how to grow the luxury market, I think it's a beautiful idea. It's an amazing uh, goal because as the sector of tourism grows, by the way, today is also World Environmental Day, and so yeah, happy World Environment Day. My apologies. I'm trying to make sure that one gets in here. Hopefully soon. And what are we doing for the environment? We need to protect our environment. And speaking of which, ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Baker, Karlo Baker, in Rwanda, and he's a man of many talents, many talents, many. I mean, seriously, I just so many of them. I will let him just introduce himself and tell you about who he is and those talents. But I know he has so many, and it's such a pleasure that he can find time to come and talk to us. Hello, Joyce, Murakaza Neza. And please, if you just joined, as I was saying earlier, please go and vote for Zaniheza. Now, without further ado, our guest, Muraho.
Hey, how's it going? How's it going? How are you?
Good. Thank you for your time. We'll jump into it.
Absolutely. It was lovely joining. Fantastic. We finally made it. We finally found a time.
Yes. And we will also make it to the other platform because that you mentioned. Now we are on YouTube, and then we'll go on all the platforms where we can do the live. Now, I was saying you are a man of many talents. So please tell us who is Karlo Baker. I don't want to, just tell us. You have a beautiful resume and you've done a number of things. So let's start there.
Okay. Well, to keep it super simple for everyone, my name's Karlo Baker, and I am actually British, but I was born in Germany. So I went down the route of studying and did a Bachelor of Science in International Business and Languages. So studied Chinese and French, and have a passion for entrepreneurship. Always been a big part of that, and always wanted to have a part of giving back. So everything I've kind of done has had some sort of ethical or give back aspect to it. Long story short, I worked on various startups, consulted on a couple, was shareholder in some, and worked on various others with friends to help launch. But my main thing I did for many years was work ran a ethical fashion brand with my business partner and a group of fantastic individuals. We're building schools and helping empower women in developing countries. And then we decided to move on from that in 2017. And continued then to explore what that might look like. Worked as a consultant, management consulting, helping businesses grow and accelerate, especially on the marketing, PR, and social media strategy side of things. And decided to then actually launch a sort of new business, go into the lifestyle sector, a bit more high end, based on the network I've accumulated over the last 9 years. And then decided to launch a private concierge company, which was based in London, but actually worked in various countries with clients from all around the world, basically from networks I sort of worked with over the years, and specialized in all things private travel, access, and high-end events. So we worked on that, and then it launched into various other projects, working with people who are making a difference around the world. And from that, started, because we did a lot of high-end private events, started to work on a new project, which was a music entertainment company called Music Box Live, where we create music experiences for clients, and we work with over 300 artists all around the world to create those experiences. So it links very well into the lifestyle concierge, but more sort of the ethical side of things. We have actually launched a separate private members club called Philanthropy Club, where we basically help high net worth and ultra high net worth clients reinvest their money into ethical causes and actually help not only be sustainable, but also to grow their wealth, but in causes that actually make a difference rather than just buying things that don't really matter. So that being said, work with all sorts of clients all around the world, and therefore the last kind of year looked into Africa a bit more, very interested in what's going on. A lot of clients and friends of mine are based in Africa, from Africa, work with Africa, and wanted to explore that more. So therefore, decided to travel to South Africa and explore Africa from there. And I've been traveling Africa for about 3.5 months now, and working with various sort of luxury institutions and looking at an aspect of developing aspects within Africa and luxury institutions within Africa to use that as a vehicle to drive change to better in Africa. So that's what we're doing now. So which has been exciting. So it's been in Rwanda at the moment, obviously, which is amazing. And it's been an amazing experience so far. Amazing people, beautiful culture, and super excited.
We'll get to that, Rwanda. I know when we talk about Rwanda, we get passionate. And, it is really the lightning bolt in Africa right now.
It is.
As one of my guests said, the secret is out. I had a guest from Greece who went to Rwanda. So you went to Rwanda. So you are in Rwanda, and so tell me about that. So you landing in Rwanda, just take your time and visiting, discovering Rwanda. Just walk through those moments. The first time you landed, what was your first reaction? Was it everything you have read or heard? And even so, how did you even hear about Rwanda?
It's an interesting one. I mean, I was in South Africa, obviously based there. We set up an office there and we're working from there. And a couple of my clients actually based or traveling Africa and working in Rwanda on various development projects. We are working on, I can't say too much, but with a concierge company working on a couple of interesting development projects throughout Africa, including Rwanda. So I said, it'll be interesting to visit. And they said, why don't you come and check it out and see what it's actually all about in person. So we work with, obviously, sort of international, like 5-star hotels around the world. And the One and Only Group is one of our partners. And so it said it'd be interesting to check it out and come there and see it. So I was like, perfect. And obviously the Commonwealth does a lot in Rwanda as well. So I said, why don't we just go and check it out and see what it's all about? So decided to travel there, and now I'm here. So it's been an amazing experience to kind of just explore the country. And when I landed, obviously it's green, it's super green. It's obviously feels like a jungle. A lot of people who don't know Africa think it's all hot and dry and deserts, but it's very much the opposite. I mean, it's very it's a beautiful place, and obviously famous for gorilla tracking and wildlife and conservation. And so, I think there's a lot of potential there. People, I think, from the genocide in 1994, really have learned a lot from what's happened. When I used to run a fashion brand, we were based in Cambodia. So it's the same thing happened there, with the Khmer Rouge, who basically killed a third of their population, which was terrible. You can think about it. In the 70s, barely imagined that could ever happen. And then they came out of that, and the population was just completely transformed to the better in terms of that they just never wanted to have that happen again. So started innovating and growing, and a bit like that in Rwanda. I think there's a lot of parallels. Really, what I'm seeing here is it's a very beautiful country, beautiful people, so much potential. You could compare it, because I used to live in Singapore for 1 year. You could say it's like a little Singapore, Africa version of Singapore. Very focused on development, on infrastructure, on getting international knowledge. I mean, I think since the genocide happened, I think about 1 million Rwandan people have actually come back to Rwanda to actually help develop the country and invest in property and various things. So there's a very interesting range of key projects going on at the moment, which I'm actually also quite interested to invest in and work on. So really would love to see Africa, develop more and more, and Rwanda obviously will be a big part of it. So I'm loving the country. Probably countryside nature is mind blowing. You guys will see more on my Instagram as well. I mean, there's more to post. I've been super busy with work here, so it's been a bit tricky, but been absolutely amazing. So more to come.
Absolutely. So now, what are you enjoying the most? Is it the food? Is it, as you said, is it the nature? What's more fascinating? I mean, in this case, you've been to Singapore, and you're saying it's like a mini Singapore. So draw us that picture there.
Yes. Have you been to Singapore? Have you actually been to Singapore?
I know, I've seen it in the pictures. It looks really amazing.
Yes, exactly. No, it's stunning. I mean, Singapore itself is a fascinating place because it's basically a tiny country. It's not very big. So a bit like Rwanda, it's not huge, but it's got so much to offer. And it's one of those things where you just think, I want to find out more, and how it's worked, infrastructure, everything else around it is fascinating. And I think my favorite thing is, I think the food is amazing. The food's been very, very good, I must say. People, surprise me, but I like the culture. One thing that fascinates me is the culture. You can learn about a culture, you can watch it on TV, you can listen to a radio, but when you actually go there, meet the people, that's when you only really understand what it's really about, right? I think it's the only way to really learn about a new country is to actually be there. And I think that's where it gets fascinating and interesting to really understand what it really, really entails. And having conversations with the people, what's their life, what are they going through, what's their past, speaking to people about how they've experienced the genocide, and it's just fascinating. So I think that's really one of the bigger learning curves for me, is just to understand what they've gone through, and listening to the stories, and learning about the food and the culture and everything around it. But I think the people more so has been the biggest eye opener for me, which I've really, really enjoyed. So yeah, been an amazing trip.
No, I am very happy to hear. Before we jump into the topic of the day, so do you see that? Yeah, Singapore is really small. Do you see that the model, what you see in Singapore? Do you see Rwanda sort of getting there, or even not being farther from that? Now that you are in the country and that you are thinking of growing the luxury market, do you see Rwanda reaching to that point? Because this is very key, because some people think that's just a bluff. It can never happen. Can you tell us your own assessment from the business point of view, from the travel point of view, from also the high end point of view? Because Rwanda, we are really on the way to that.
Yeah. No, I think it really is. I mean, I think the advantage in Africa is that people underestimate Africa. Certain things have been over marketed in the years, and people think that it's people flock to places where the marketing has been done successfully. And I think Rwanda and Africa has a massive advantage in terms of it hasn't really been marketed to anyone. When you think of Rwanda, you think genocide. You don't think, beautiful nature walks. You don't think wildlife preservation. You don't think luxury hotels or nature travel, or tourism even. You don't really think that. So in certain ways, it's a massive advantage. I think especially from an investment perspective, to invest in that country, just because people don't really understand the context of everything now. And so I think Africa in general is a very hot spot in terms of things you can do there. And everything you've seen, for example, where I'm from London, you go to Africa, that what you've seen in London 10 times, you don't see there yet. So it's not rocket science. It's not like you can't just jump on a plane and you can go there. It's an 11-hour flight and it's there. So it's not that difficult. But I think people have the lack of understanding, the misperceptions, the lack of understanding the culture, therefore haven't done that much. And I think that's what I'm quite excited to, with my concierge company, to really help develop the luxury market within Africa, to help in bringing more people. I've seen, especially in the hotel sector, which is exciting to see how the luxury hotels, who obviously bring international clientele, to actually even help local communities, employ them through staff, or through actually using a produce. So it's exciting to see that actually luxury does actually produce more work, and it actually helps increase economy. And obviously it needs to be done in an ethical way, but there's a lot of potential there to actually really substantiate the international reach of these businesses within places like Africa, which is basically barely untapped. So get in there, people, get in there.
Yeah.
Potential, and help develop the country. I mean, get in there, but make a profit, obviously, but help develop. I mean, that's the best thing. When you help develop something, is always a place to do good, and I think it's the best thing you could ever do. So yeah, it's exciting.
No, it is. It is. Just before we just even jump into how you will be doing that, we just have to clear the air. And Africa has such a very interesting and sad history. I'm trying to go to the during the colonial time as well. So just to clear the air, essentially, is okay. We see at Karlo, he's from the UK, and now he's talking about Africa and so on. So what is the draw for you? How in other world, if someone is looking at you and, of course, you are Caucasian, it's like, okay, so what is it? What is it do you want? Especially in this given time, like we are seeing a lot of African Americans going back home, and because they don't feel safe in their country. And this is one of those sort of challenging questions. So, it's like, okay, now why would we trust what Karlo is saying? And then, what is his pure intention in sort of growing that international market, high-end market?
I think it's it's a good question. I think I mean, my background is, it comes from Ethical Fashion Brand. I mean, we help develop businesses and people in Africa, in Asia. So, we've been doing that for many. I've been personally doing that for many years with the company that's been running. So, my intention has always been to help further develop countries that need support. And I think it's one thing going bottom up. You can always try and work with. Top down is with governments, for example. So you work with a government to try to influence the local economy, but it's very hard because obviously government is very rigid, very structured. A lot of things, they won't listen. I remember various times even supporting consulting projects with other friends and clients of mine who were looking to make a difference in developing countries, weren't able to get through to the government because they just didn't want to listen. They're not interested. In small, grassroots projects, they're not interested. And I think the best way of proving anything is by actually leading by example and showing what it might look like, and that's why I'm passionate about actually working with up and coming businesses to really to have that standard, but don't have the reach, don't have the resources, don't have the access to help them develop. Because like me being a Caucasian or not, it doesn't really matter what my skin tone is. The fact of the matter is, when you look factually at the market, forget me. Just look at what's going on. There's a lot of development needed, right? Let's not be hypothetical. Let's look at the facts. And the facts are that the market needs developing. And so, you can either be part of it or look away. And no matter how you do it, no matter where you're from, I think there's so much potential to help one another to develop it, and actually also to help the West to understand Africa better. The potential behind it. And if we join forces and join hands to use that international experience. I mean, you yourself, you've traveled all around the world. You've lived in Canada. You technically are a foreigner in a different country as well, where you could bring knowledge and understand what Africa might look like in Canada. And it's a two-way thing. It's not just a one-way thing, but helping one another to understand each other's cultures, how we can support each other with that is key. And I think any good business or concept will always have an understanding of what international actually means. And that's why my passion is really to help develop these businesses that have the right foundation, but might not have the right resources or access or reach to do more than they're doing already. If you want to transform the local market, you need resources for that. And how do you get resources? By pulling in people who have the resources, and that's the whole point. Obviously, managing that in a sustainable way is key. So, but yeah, that's my passion really. Even if it's in the UK, we worked with when we used to run a fashion brand. You obviously worked in Cambodia, helping women, empower them, working with local charities in Cambodia to train them, give them the skills they needed, buy them more workstations, working with banks in the UK to give them micro-free interest loans. So then there's no risk. It's ethical. They can buy everything they need. They can develop the skills, and then they can make products for us, and they'll get paid up front. And the same for everything else we've been doing is using the best of each market to help one another. What we did when in the UK, for example, we're working with disadvantaged or disabled women who haven't been in employment and help them. They basically worked in our warehouse, and we basically gave them training, and then actually enabled them to kind of train, learn, and then go back into employment. And our success rate in getting them back was over 33%. Now, it might sound low, but actually, they're based on their track record. They haven't been in employment for years. And so actually that's a big success rate. We're looking at the overall picture. So, it's all how you see it. And it's about utilizing resources, really.
Yeah, someone just said very wise young man. I was looking at the comments. I'm trying to bring them here online.
Yes, so I can't see them. I can see them.
So now, what's the game plan? Because Rwanda is definitely the right place. I guess you've been at One and Only. How was that, by the way? How was that
That's
experience?
amazing. Yeah, very, very cool. Yeah, currently still with them. Amazing, amazing place. They have, I mean, their concept of doing business is obviously top standard. I think, you know, being in a developing country or not is no excuse to not strive for excellence. No matter what you are, no matter who you are, you should always be striving towards excellence. And no matter what business you work, even if you work in a fast food chain or in a McDonald's, it doesn't matter. My passion is to see people developing their work ethic and their personal development links into business. You can't have a good business if you don't have good people. So the first thing you need to develop is not a good business. I can give you all the resources, the tools, I can give you all the financial systems, but if you have people who are sloppy, who don't care about themselves and don't love themselves, there's no point starting any business, because every business is made out of good people. So if you don't have good people, you don't have a good business. And so rather than trying to understand how to do business well, you need to understand how to do people well. And if you understand to do people well, you will have a good business. That's a result. It's a side effect. So I think people have the focus wrong. Often when they start businesses, they think about all the things they need and the finances and this and that. But if you just don't have capable people, I do a lot of public speaking, and my passion is to develop good people. Many times I've gone into a university lecture or a business forum, and I started to speak about how to start a business or what it means to expand globally, and then I realized that these people in there were just insecure, didn't love themselves, and just didn't and giving someone resources is not that difficult actually, but you need to be able to receive them. If I say to you, okay, Chris or Charles or John or whoever, hey, why don't you take my help? And they're like, oh no, but I don't deserve it, or I don't know how to do it. Lack of self-belief can hinder you in many ways. And I think a lot of people, based on lies they've been believing all their life, even from since they've been a baby, hinders them to reach greatness. And for me, really a big part of everything I do in business is to actually really help empower people to understand that anyone can do great things. Anyone, no matter what abuse, what bad hardship, what dad wasn't there, whatever your background is, don't blame it on that. You've got a new day. Today's a new day. What do you do now? What do you do in your future? And I think that's how people need to think, and they need help with that. And so that's why daily motivation. That's why I do a lot of motivational speaking. It's like daily water. You don't drink water once a month. You drink it daily. Why? Because if you drink it once a month, you're going to die. It's the same thing. Simple principle. It's not rocket science. And anyway, so that's why my passion about making a difference in that way as well.
No, that is really, really said. I will get back to that. I just want to quickly acknowledge our audience who have taken the time to be here with us, because they are the people. And I see one question here from Eric. And someone just said here, Marilyn, yes, excellence at all times. I think that's acknowledging what you were saying. And there's a question from Eric here. In your perspective, what's the level, I guess you can see it, of hospitality in Rwanda?
What was the question?
So he's saying, in your perspective, what's the level of hospitality in Rwanda, and what do you think can be improved in the tourism sector to develop the African economy?
Very good question. Very, very good question. I think one of the issues, I think, to any good service-based industry is a lack of good service. I think, and it's not based on people not caring. It's not based on people not wanting to do better. It's people just not understanding what an international concept is and not knowing what the standard is. When you can't compare yourself to anything, you don't know where you're at with anything. And I think it's, for example, if you live in a slum next to a luxury penthouse, you know what the difference is. It's not rocket science. So, and that's a bad example. But my point being is, if you can't see the contrast, if you can't compare, you don't know what you want to strive towards. And I think a lot of people lack that understanding of what an international market wants and needs. And I don't say support capitalism. I don't really believe in that, and that's that way. But it is a drive towards excellence. And so knowing how to actually improve where you're at now, which you think is fine, but actually when you compare in a bigger context, there's a lot more you can gain for. It's like me being obese and all I know is obesity. A perfect example, I mean, it's a random one, but in Fiji, for example, until 1969, they didn't have TVs. So, being in Fiji, everyone was massively obese. They just ate. All they knew was that. So they didn't even see there was an issue with that. Everyone got a diabetes, died early. I didn't see what the issue is. Like suddenly had TVs arrive, start watching the TV shows where people were super slim and models, etc., etc. They were like, oh my gosh, well, the depression rate went up, the suicide rate went up, obviously because I didn't know how to handle that difference. That contrast helps to identify where you're at now, good and bad. And the issue is that actually you don't have anything to compare yourself to. You don't actually know where you want to go to. So I think in a healthy way, how to navigate that in a sense that you need to know what your goals are, what you can reach, but then how do you handle it in a healthy way? And so same with the hospitality in sector, you look around and everyone's just eating rice all day. Great, fine. But how about adding a bit of spice or adding a bit of this? It's about exploring what it might look like, what excellence might look like. And so re-exploring the standards you might have, when someone doesn't like something, so you go to a restaurant, for example, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've seen in China, for example, which is hilarious. Service doesn't really exist there, unless you go to a 5-star hotel, obviously. But if you go to a local market and you buy something and you don't like your food, they're not going to give you a refund. They're not going to give you food again for free. They're going to be like, if you don't like it, get out of my market. And it might spit at you or swear at you. That's what you'd get. And that's it. There's no conversation, and I've had this so many times, which actually is funny because I don't know what service means. And that's... and it's links into care and stuff. So it's really answering your question, is understanding what an international market wants. And the only way you know this is by actually engaging with an international market. And that's why the luxury sector is a great gateway to facilitate that and to open people's perspectives of what service and standards and hospitality might look like in terms of interior, in terms of food, in terms of cuisine, in terms of care, whatever you take it, any aspect. It's important. That's why I want to encourage globalism and internationalism, because it really helps you understand the world better.
No, absolutely. I mean, so far you said some key things there, having really good people, and as well as reaching that service, that standard. And so one question that I was wondering, so how do you get the people to deliver that level of service that you are looking for? There is training. Is there anything else that can be done to achieve that through the people that you have identified? Because sometimes I wonder if the culture also plays part in kind of understanding how it's done.
Interesting thing is, one thing I've learned is it's funny how when I identify how to improve these standards, you just assume, well, you just do a training, but it does. Culture can be a barrier to actually learning new things. It's interesting. And I think just taking a practical example, you go to China, for example. China is a communist society. Africa obviously has a very different sort of Christian-based society. It's a bit different. But the concept, for example, of caring for someone or loving someone is a Christian concept. Now, people grow up in England or in London, for example. People just think that, forgiving someone or showing care or being polite is just the thing we do, right? But when you really understand where it's come from, it actually, goes on teachings even from Jesus from thousands and thousands of years ago of how to treat someone, how to treat your neighbor, how to conduct yourself. We take this for granted and we don't give credit to it. Fine, your business. But the fact of the matter is, it goes back to its principles. Whereas you go to China on a communist perspective, you don't care about these things. You don't care about forgiveness. If you cheated on me, if you stole from me, why would I forgive you? It makes no sense. You that's it. Get out of my life. So we take these things for care, and good service is good care. If you don't care about someone, you don't give good service. So that's the whole point of understanding that when you go into a different culture like China or even Africa, there's a different way of doing culture and about conducting business, conducting hospitality or service, and I guess I specialize in service with my industry, which is travel, tourism, food, hospitality. And it's about sharing, not forcing people. Forcing never will do anything, but sharing positive experiences of how one could better what one has. And as you said very well, it can create a barrier. And I found it actually, culture often is a beautiful thing, but at the same time is a barrier because people don't understand, because it's different to what they've always learned, It's like learning a different language. It's not easy.
Because as we speak, I don't know if you are seeing it, and we need to address this, because if we are going to do the work, you are thinking of doing, and yes, Zaniheza will be there with you. There is no secret that, for example, service-wise, in Rwanda, it is normal that when you go in a restaurant, it depends which ones, but if we want to start developing the local, not the one and only, which may already have a similar type of service we are looking for, but if we want to develop most of the local businesses, I don't know if you have seen it, you can go to a restaurant and it's normal to wait for an hour for your glass of water to arrive. And, hey, you can say what's going on. So you do require a lot of patience. In fact, one of my good friend, the YouTuber Theo, is back. He just posted a video about things you should know before you travel to Rwanda, and then or things you should have. And then one thing he was kind of saying is you need to take a chill pill.
That's funny.
It's like you go to a restaurant, it's taking forever. Take a chill pill. Nice one. So and it is true. Each time I travel, my patience has to be sort of bigger than it is here.
Yeah.
Are you seeing that, and how are you managing that, and how do we not necessarily fix that, but because it's not necessarily a bad thing. Don't get me wrong. It is actually, the world move at its own tandem, but how do you find the balance?
Exactly. I think one thing is patience, right? I think it's and the only way you can develop patience is by having understanding. You can't expect someone, if you don't know, if I look at, for example, perfect example, if I look at a Chinese person in London, you could maybe assume that he only speaks Chinese, right? When you speak to him, you realize he can actually speak fluent English. He might even have an English accent. So that's an assumption that's wrong, So you can assume certain things and therefore base your whole ideology and everything, your actions on that. It could be completely wrong. So if your outset is wrong, all your actions will follow wrong as well. So the key thing to understand is, what is your premise? What are you building your premise on? And I think the key thing is to understand is, especially when it comes into an international market, is really knowing what you're working. Things have changed. Time has changed. And I think that's the biggest thing to understand, is always be willing to listen, always be willing to reassess what you actually believe and what you know, because, and that's why I love traveling, because I think for traveling, you really start understanding the world in a more realistic way. I'm a realist. I like evidence. I like rational. I like things that make sense, not just talking airy-fairy theories in the sky. And I think that's why it's important to listen. And if you don't listen, you don't want to, willing to learn. That's why I love to come to Rwanda, really being like, okay, I'm this white person. I stand out like terrible. I hate being a tourist. I hate being a tourist. I kid you not. It's the most awkward thing. When you're running around with like this white person, looks like he's never seen sun, and with a camera and like shorts and a backpack, you're like, yeah, I'm such a tourist right now. I'm like, oh my gosh. It's like, if I would be in England and it is like this rural area and you see like a black person with Asian, you're like, that's definitely a tourist. That's how I feel all the time. But it's all good. It's part of learning. But it's a funny aspect of development, but it's key. It really is.
No, it is really key. We will take a few questions, and I know you are busy as you are a busy person. You didn't talk about your fashion also past career.
Yes, fashion background,
and also music.
Yes, music. Yes, exactly. Music is my entertainment company. Yes, I love music.
One person was saying, do you see any potential for real estate tourism?
Real estate tourism in Rwanda, I mean.
Yes, let's say, I think they can clarify, but let's say in Rwanda or in Africa or.
Yes. So just to clarify, when you say real estate tourism, do you mean like developing real estate and driving more tourism through real estate?
I will let them clarify. Anthony, can you clarify while they do that? I'm going to take another question.
Yes, that'd be great.
I'm going to assume. So while many young people are joining the tourism industry, what advice would you give them, not only to solve the unemployment problem, but also to help them build their future lives?
It's a good question. I mean, so can you repeat that one more time?
While many young people are joining the tourism industry, what advice would you give them, not only to solve the unemployment problem, but also to help them build their future lives?
Great question. I think, I want to say this really clear as well. A lot of people think that travel is expensive, and it's a bit of a lie, because I've done whole trips hitchhiking places where I haven't spent a cent and even made money on my way. You know, I mean, how I started traveling, truth be told, is I know I saved up. I worked on a building site for 4 months, and then I actually saved up to buy my visa and my plane ticket and fly to New Zealand. I lived in New Zealand for a year, you know, and I was living in a van for a year, nothing glamorous at all, and I loved it. And everywhere I went, I worked. You know, I worked as a mixologist, I worked worked as a dancer, worked as a beekeeper, worked in a fish factory, like the whole thing. And you know, there's ways around travel. People think, you know, and I've met people traveling. They spend £10,000. They do 2 weeks and they've lost everything, and then they come back with no money. I'm like, that's not very clever. You know, it's like there's ways of being wise. And so, how can I encourage the youth to travel? Kind of one. You know, how do they learn? Guys, I think the crazy thing is, think about the tools you have. It's tools, utilizing the tools. Digital media, social media marketing, social media in general is an amazing way to learn about travel. You know, it doesn't mean you have to physically go everywhere, but you can learn so much through the internet. And that's one of the things when I was in Africa, in South Africa, actually helping youth get access to internet in terms of using it in a wise way. You know, develop, learn, understand. A lot of training courses, even with COVID now, have gone online. It's easy, you know, like things like Udemy, like the Udemy platform. I don't know if you know, Charles, but the Udemy is a classic platform where you can get courses for like £10 for a whole course, or free even, and you can learn so much online. So the way to learn about travel and tourism is by, you know, watching YouTube, watching Vimeo, like learning about the world. You don't have to travel to every single place to understand the world better. You know, educate yourself online. It's an easy, free way, and that's why I've learned so much through online resources. So I would encourage the youth to even help themselves to learn, develop, is use the internet if you can. Get hold of that. That's a big one.
No, thank you. While you saw me popping up, I just want to, as we get to the end of this, I just want to show the world how you are enjoying Rwanda at this present time. And I was just trying to get this clip on here, which is also available on your IG, Instagram. So let me just roll it, and we'll come back, take one question. Here we go. That was fast.
Yeah,
But I can see in the nature.
I saw a glimpse of what it looks like.
You know, just enjoy the nature. Anthony has clarified what he was asking.
Best up in the coach.
So
interesting. Now, is it Anthony Clementson, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah, so Anthony, thank you for the question. That's a very, very good question. Now, I'll give you a straight answer to make it as simple as possible. I truly believe that the luxury sector has a real opportunity to attract international clients to develop local economies. I truly believe that. And that's what I'm passionate about. Also, I believe that service needs to be top standard at it, even if you're working with local people. Service is something that works. Service ultimately, what service means, good service ultimately is showing care for someone. Now, if I show care for someone, if it's my friend, my partner, my business partner, my employee, works. Service works. Simple. Good service. Good service doesn't mean doing it a stiff, certain way. Service means understanding your target audience. And you want to understand your target audience. You want to know who you're dealing with. If you're speaking to a kid who's 4 years old, you'll speak to them differently as if you're speaking to someone who's 85. Simple. You know, if you're speaking to someone who's from Africa, you speak to them different as someone from China, or someone from England, from a local village in Scotland. You know, you need to know your audience. So good service means knowing your audience. And we've actually currently, with a concierge company, are developing an online trainings course for luxury hotels, private members clubs, cocktail bars, and we're going to be rolling that out this year to help develop service standards in a very low cost subscription-based model. And I'm super, super excited. We have a very good team of about 9 core team and about 10 developers on this to help develop service standards across places where might not have access to physical service. And obviously with COVID, things have made things more difficult. But I totally agree with you, Anthony. Service is key. One of the keys to actually unlock success, wealth, and actually change lives to better. So that's one thing we're working on at the moment, is to give access to our service and trainings programs all around the world, especially within the luxury sector. So something I'm really excited about, and obviously, Charles, I'll keep you posted on that. But I think that's why we've been just working on that, because we see the difference it makes in terms of a service. I can give you a perfect example. Something funny I realized last year. I was in Egypt for some work, and I was there for 2 weeks. And I was staying at a supposedly 5-star whatever luxury hotel, and went down to the bar one evening with a friend of mine, and asked him. And again, I don't know if you know this or not, but it's just interesting. You expect certain things when you're in certain standards, and you went down. Well, asked for an espresso martini, which is basically a cocktail with coffee, espresso, and vodka, and what either way, Kahlua. And so I had no idea what that was, and he had no idea. And if you going to a local takeaway, obviously you're not expecting them to serve that, but if you're going to an international, global, and he dealt with it in such a bad way, where service was just lacking. And it just showed me that service is so key to build bridges rather than create gaps. And that's just a superficial, stupid drink example. But I can go from a simple way of the way you greet people, the way you actually make people feel like you're listening. It can be simple, and it's just understanding different cultures and how they deal with things. It's super important. And that's my passion, as I said earlier, for internationalization and for globalization is so important, that we grow together as a network, because that's the real world. I like to be real. Now, I said, Charles, to you, the world doesn't work in the way where we just keep into our own country. We, and that's it. That's not how the world works. Success is always driven by an international reach, international conversations, international business. And that's what we want to strive towards together, and do this obviously in an ethical way. We don't exploit people. That's why, what I've done is really done in a way where we actually support and build rather than exploit and take away. And that's what we are working towards. So I'm always someone who is open, loves to help. You've got questions, if I can answer anything you might not know about an international market or global market or the luxury sector, that's what we work in. Very happy to answer any questions or support.
And I think, what you keep saying is right. Services, international market. And it's very interesting because Zaniheza, we say that we do have providing excellent customer service as one of our core. It's even in our definition. It's right in there, because I truly believe in that. If we cannot provide excellent customer service, how we treat people, how we say hello, and I do have the model, because like you, yes, when you have travel, it does give you a perspective that you get to see something real in front of you. Like Japan, it's where their service is really bar none. You see it in everything they do. When I'm in Japan, and whenever I go to a park, it's just a park and someone is just there to clean. But the way they just do it, he's just there to clean, but he's really taking it seriously. He's looking at every little things, but I'm like, it's just a park. But it's kind of amazing to see. Karlo, it's been a pleasure. In maybe next time we host you can maybe do some of your musical other talents. I think the audience have had really some good questions, and I'm just going to add one last comment from Joyce, who is saying some of these countries needs customer service and time service. I just want to mention that quickly, that Rwanda does have the Vatal hospitality school. In fact, we just hired someone from there because I understand what they can bring to Zaniheza. So they do have such a school. It is one, but we definitely need to have more. Do you have anything you would like to add in conclusion?
Yeah, I mean, I think in conclusion, I think this is not a one-stop stream or conversation. This is an ongoing conversation, and what we really all want to strive towards is increasing our knowledge of an international, global world. This is how it is. You can agree with me or disagree. The world is an international market. Look how COVID spread. I mean, it's an international market. It's a perfect proof. And so, on the bad and on obviously focusing on the good side, we can all help to develop things and develop a conversation. And I think it's about continuous conversations and talks about educating each other what our global market needs, where we're at with the global market, problems are, how we can solve it. issue you give me, I like see an opportunity, I see a solution. So I think we all need to be rather than just watching this interview being like, oh great, good for you guys, well done, and let's move on. We all need to be part of this move of working to enhance the knowledge in an international market and live in the real world, not in a bubble or delusion, because not joining the international cause is not the real world, and you're just going to stop progress and stop development on your personal side as well. So I would encourage you all to keep that conversation going. If you love what we do, I mean, I'm doing a lot more workshops and talks on all things internationalization. Obviously, we'll be doing more in Africa now, which is not a secret, and working more with local businesses to really help them. If it's with network, if it's with financing, if it's with consulting, understanding what they need and what doesn't work, especially within the service sector, is obviously what we specialize in. I'm very happy to keep engaging, obviously, on my Instagram, which is Karlo Baker, if you guys want to check it out, or obviously on other interviews we'll be doing online as well. But yeah, it's all about keeping that conversation going. And so I hope that was useful.
No, it was very useful. I mean, yes, just keep going international, and just to tell our viewers that to also vote Zaniheza. We are in this international competition. That the link is in there in the chat. Karlo, it's been a pleasure to have you. Maybe we'll have you again another time. Enjoy Rwanda, and for every project that you do, Zaniheza will do their parts to support you, and vice versa.
Thank you. No, absolutely. Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope it was useful, entertaining. And if you have any questions, either link them to Charles or to me, and hopefully we can support. That's the biggest arm of a concierge company in terms of development is really supporting businesses. It's not about us. It's not about making money. It's about actually helping businesses thrive that have been struggling beforehand. So hopefully there's some use in what we do. So yeah,
absolutely.
Reach out.
Thank you, Karlo.
Thank you very much for watching us today. If you have not subscribed, remember to subscribe and hit that bell button to stay updated about our upcoming videos. Don't forget to comment and like our videos and tell us what you think we should do more.